So, you think you can solo flawless the dungeon? Well, I got something to tell you. You can do it. You got this. Hey gamers, welcome back to the channel. Today we're looking at a complete guide on how to solo flawless the Prophecy dungeon. I'm going to assume you already know how to do it, so only recommendations are going to be in this video. Not encounter mechanics will be explained, that was in my guide. We also will cover all 3 characters, and I will also give multiple tiers of recommended loadouts. What do I mean by that? I will recommend the absolute best loadout for those of you who have the gear acquired, but I will also try to find some loadouts that apply to people who don't have the best. The tiers are going to be as follows. There's the try-hard tier, which is for those of you who have gear from pinnacle activities like raids. This might include raid mods and armor, anarchy, or ritual weapons like mountaintop. The next tier is gamer tier. This is for those of you who might not have some of that top tier gear, but still have some killer weapons. This includes like Wither Horde or other great weapons and mods like LMGs or resist mods. The last tier is, well, casual tier. This is for those of you who are just gonna go in with what you got and see how it goes. This might be like snipers or some basic weapons that might get the job done, but it's gonna be kind of tough. Try to take as many recommendations as you can from the top tier and move down from there, filling in some missing items with some of the lower tier recommendations. You will see an example of this when we break down the loadouts. So let's get to these loadouts and builds. I personally rank the ease of completion by class as Warlock being the easiest, then Hunter, and then Titan. So plan accordingly on what character you want to use, but don't just force yourself to play Warlock when you might not have good gear or experience on them. Let's look at the loadouts now. Go to the character you're going to use by following the timestamp on screen. Warlocks. Hey fellow Warlocks, how you doing? And if you aren't a Warlock main and you're just using your Warlock to get the flawless, then act like you're a Warlock main. Anyway, we have it easy. Besides a couple of jumping encounters, we will always be on bottom tree Voidwalker for the Devour perk. This perk is activated by holding your grenade and eating it, or by getting a charge melee final blow. After Devour is active, getting a kill regenerates all of your HP and resets the Devour timer to 10 seconds, which most of you already know. This is the ultimate survival build as long as you're focused on looking for weak enemies to finish. I recommend using the Vortex Grenade, a Healing Rift, and Blink. That was a joke, please don't use Blink, use Burst Glide. But you should already be on this if you're a real Warlock main, so if you're still faking it, start taking notes, Burst Glide. Burst Glide. Now for exotics. In my Warlock run, I actually didn't use any exotic armor pieces, and that was because I wanted to use another seasonal mod slot. But I do see some interesting exotic builds you could use. One exotic is Nezarec Sins, but if you do run this, make sure to replace some weapons when I get the recommendations with void weapons. Catcher's Hold is also not that bad. Transversive Steps is nice if you're familiar with the Warlock movement and can proc the free reload as you run for your life. Other off-brands, if you're curious, would be like Sanguine Alchemy, I Have Another World, Verity's Brow, or the Stag, but these are like probably low tier. Now before we move on, I want to recommend switching to Top Tree Dawnblade for the Icarus Dash for 2 sections. You can skip the first encounter on Warlock by swinging a sword up one of the holes, and then once you're near the top, Icarus Dash twice up and around. Fly to the next encounter, and you just skip the whole first encounter. Switch back to your Devour tree before rallying, and you should be good to go. Next time you want to use the Icarus subclass is on the Sparrow encounter. Switch the top tree down again after the cube room, so when you're on Ribbon Road, you have a safety net in case you fall. Just pop your Dawnblade and an Icarus Dash your way back to safety. Alright, that's it. We will look at weapons all together with other characters, so you can skip to that section now to avoid hearing about the lazy Titans and Hunters. Hunters. I'd like to make an apology. I thought that Hunters were weak, and it would be difficult to get this done, but, and don't tell the Warlocks, it might actually be the easiest on Hunter. You guys will be using invisibility. I know, shocker, this whole dungeon. I personally liked running the high mobility for like a 10-ish second cooldown on my dodge, and then run top tree Night Stalker for the invis upon dodging. You can run the bottom tree and then Gambler's Dodge as well, or 6 Coyote if you want to even go any farther, and then use your melee ability for invis, but just know that has a delay for the invis bomb to go off. I ran the Void Wall Grenade, but Vortex might be better, Gambler's Dodge, and Triple Jump. You guys have it nice, because when you dunk motes, you can go invis before picking up that 5th mote to dunk it while invisible. Remember, when you pick up the motes, you can't use an ability, so don't proc it after, proc it right before you're going to pick up that 5th mote. This allows for a safe dunk every time. Now for exotics. If you're running top tree, I recommend Wormhest Crown for that free HP every dodge, and with a high mobility, you can dodge often. If you're running bottom tree for the melee invisibility, you probably want to run 6 Coyote for the extra Gambler's dodge, which equates to another free invis. Some other off-brand exotics could be like Graviton Forfeit or Assassin's Cowl, which I haven't really tested, but that might work. Assassin's Cowl, is that cool? Anyone use that? Does anyone use that exotic? Whatever. Now before we move on, I wanted to recommend something about being on bottom tree Night Stalker and Stompies for the spare encounter, and this is mainly for being able to spam tether in case you fall, and then Stompies for the jump. Otherwise, it's going to be invis all day. If you're looking to skip the first encounter on Hunter, you can do it, but I'm pretty sure it requires Stompies and high mobility. Have a sword and jump into the hole, spam your sword until you reach the top, then curve it around and activate your second jump. And then try to mantle on top. This is kind of tricky, but with the triple jump, it's doable. Hop over the next encounter, you might need a sword swing to get over there, and you just skip the first encounter. Switch back to your gear, make sure you're on the right stuff before rallying, and you're good to go. Alright, that's it, and we'll look at the weapons together with all the other characters, so you can skip that section now to avoid hearing about the Titans. Titans. You guys have the short end of the stick. Punching ain't gonna win you this one. Wait, unless... Nah, no. The class that has the most survivability on Titan is gonna be the bottom tree Sunbreaker for the sunspots. This tree allows HP to be restored on ability kills. This includes grenades, melee, super, and existing sunspot. Due to this build, you want high ability regen, specifically your grenade. I recommend running the Thermite Grenade for the constant waves of fire, Towering Barricade for safety, and whatever jump you're comfortable with. For exotic armor, there is some flexibility. I personally use Phoenix Cradle for the Sun Warrior buff to last 10 seconds, which in turn regens my abilities a lot faster. Other exotics that I can see getting some equal, if not better use, are the One-Eyed Mask, but this is really when you need to prioritize whatever enemy is targeted, so it could be bad. Hollowfire Heart, but the regen is kind of sketchy since if you use your super, you're going to be out of abilities for a while. Some potentially other good builds could be, and I actually didn't really think about this, but Ashen Wake for fusion grenades, and they return grenade energy upon use. But another one could be maybe Armamentarium for the double nades. Crest of Apalupi might be nice, but placing a wall is kind of hard with all the fire, but if you have taken Invigoration, you're going to have a lot of walls. Now before we move on, I want to recommend using Thunder Crash in the Sparrow encounter. So just in case you fall off, and maybe have a sword and line rampants on, you can either Thunder Crash or Sword Skate back to safety. Otherwise, enjoy the sunspots and keep those abilities up for the free HP on kills. If you're looking to skip the first encounter, and it's by far one of the easiest on Titan, just line rampants makes it almost free. I don't know if you need it, but if you have it, use it. Have a sword out when you load in, jump up into the hole, and spam your sword until you're up at the top. Jetpack around, mantle, and simple as that. Jump to the next encounter, and you just skip the first encounter. Change back to your gear before you rally, and then get going. Alright, that's it for the build, and we're going to be looking at the weapons all together now, so stay here as the Warlocks and Hunters finally show up to the party. So let's look at special weapons. Grenade launchers are going to be king here. Grenade launchers can tackle bunched up enemies and just pack a punch for DPS. So using them for almost every main encounter is killer. So the tryhard tier here is Mountaintop with a Taken Spec. The gamer tier, if you don't have Anarchy, is going to be Witherhorde. If you do have Anarchy though, then maybe run like an Oring's Maul or a Truth Teller from this season. Blinding grenades are actually really cool, but spike grenades probably do just as much work with extra DPS. The casual tier is most likely going to be a sniper of whatever you have. The snipers will allow you to stand in like the dark or light area and snipe from cover. But what's really nice about the grenade launchers is you don't have to be exposed without line of sight for a long time. And grenade launchers can dip, dive, and duck while shooting and get into cover to reload, then pop out, shoot, get back to reload. But everyone should have a shotgun on standby when you get to the Wastelands. Now for primary weapons, it's kind of weird. So for Warlocks and Titans, you guys are going to benefit greatly from Demolitionist, the perk. On my Titan, I made sure to have a Demolitionist weapon, and his whole build is about regenerating his abilities, because his abilities are what gives him his HP. But when I thought about it, I feel like every class should have this. So the absolute best weapon I found, the try-hard tier, is going to be the Dragonfly Demolitionist Jack Queen King 3. If you don't have that, that's fine, but having Dragonfly and Demolitionist is amazing. But pretty much prioritize the Demolitionist perk, but for other tryhard tiers, I would say, Recluse can make it in any loadout. Gamer tier, I would say look for that single perk of Demolitionist and maybe the Gnawing Hunger this season, or another weapon you might have already. You just kind of want to have something that's long range, so that's why I kind of stray away from submachine guns, because I really like having like a hand cannon that can take out long range enemies, and you never really want to get too close. Casual tier, this is kind of just what you use what you got. If you have good perks, bonus, but it's gonna be kind of hard to find a primo loadout. Everyone should have a bow on standby, I'd recommend, for like the Wastelands and the Sparrow encounter, and that's for sniping the hobos from a long distance, and maybe the Vandals. Also, have Risk Runner on standby if you have it, to use the Cube Room. The Cube Room is great to have this on, as the Taken Acolytes in the eyes all shoot arc damage. Heavy weapons. Simply put, tryhard tier, it's Anarchy. Wow, I know, right? This thing allows the abuse of the mechanics. You can tag a knight and then run into the shadows or the light, whatever you need, and generate those emotes. This thing is by far the best. Tryhard tier also try to have maybe edgewise for the Demolitionist perk on a heavy weapon for the Cube Room, because Anarchy really doesn't do much with a Cube Room because the hobos are kind of annoying. If you don't have Anarchy, the gamer tier should really use Wither Horde, so for heavy we need to find a non-exotic, which I'd recommend maybe a grenade launcher for DPS phases, and to clear out a big group of enemies. Any really works, maybe 120 or Wendigo with blinding nades. The Cube Room is really nice to not have explosives though, because you can use edgewise, or go for the Moon LMG, which could have a Demolitionist perk as well. If not, any LMG really works for the Cube Room to handle those emergency kills that can get the job done. The casual tier should try to get Wither Horde for sure, but if you can't, then heavy weapons are going to have to be both DPS and emergency ad clear. So try to use a grenade launcher for the most major boss encounters, and maybe an LMG for the Cube Room. Weapon rolls are important, and I think that autoloading and Demolitionist are the key rolls you want to look at. Now for mods. All tiers should try to use all these mods if acquired. Minor, major boss resist, and then concussive dampener, and then add an extra major concussive dampener mod. Go for a grenade launcher scavenger, enhanced grenade launcher reloader or regular, grenade launcher reserves, grenade launcher scavenger, and then recuperation on your class item. If you're running Warlock or Hunter on those void subclasses, Oppressive Darkness should be used if you have it and you want that good DPS. If you go in the sniper route, just replace the mods with the sniper counterparts. The tryhard tier should have the Taken Armaments, Taken Barrier. If you want to run Hive Barrier, but I don't really think it's necessary, but then have Taken Invigoration for infinite class abilities. Fill in slots with the extra mods you have, and for the gamer tier, try to get some Taken mods if possible. These can be acquired solo from the Last Wish, or a Protective Light build with the Charge of Light mechanics could see some use. Casual tier, just try to get as many resist mods as possible, and reload or scavenger perks for your special weapons. Every tier, if you're on Hunter, try to go for as max mobility as possible. The cooldown for the upper tiers can be down to 10 seconds, so if you need to put a mobility mod on, do it. Starting the dungeon, here we go. Head to the Tribute Hall to stock up on full ammo before going in. Equip your sword if you're going to do the skip. If you watched the previous sections, I explained how to skip on each class, and go back if you need a refresher. I recommend doing this as the first phase doesn't reward anything, is long, and you could die, I guess. That's kind of embarrassing. If you do not want to skip, just use your long angles in the tunnels and take out the knights, remove all the thrall, and take one knight out on a time, and use your damage over time weapons like Wither Horde or Anarchy to get dark moats around corners. For the Phalanx encounter, this is probably going to be your most chaotic part of the dungeon. The area is small and you could fall off. This is where your main loadout, suggested before, will come in handy. One major tip here is to understand that knights only respawn when all 3 of them are dead. To play absolutely safest then, you could always time it where you are dunking a moat when there's only 1 knight alive. So for example, the first phase, kill all the taken signs by spamming their spawn points at the beginning or taking them out from cover. Then kill the 2 knights in the same shading. If done correctly, you will have that 1 dark or light dunkable moat, and only have 1 other knight alive damaging you when you dunk, which is a lot better than 3 newly respawned knights. So try to keep repeating this and understand that it is totally fine to let your motes despawn or time out if it allows you to reset and play it safe. Another great tip is a spot shown here. This is the safest area behind these walls and allows for nice angles to peek out. When you do move in a counterclockwise fashion like this. Keep moving this way and know that fire will be behind you, so you don't really want to turn around. A great tip that applies everywhere in this dungeon is how to dunk motes while moving. The Spire effect can be cleansed very forgivingly. You can even cleanse two at the same time using a specific height, but I wouldn't recommend that cheese solo. You kind of want to do like a drive-by dunk. Force your character into the air and make sure your vertical position is above the bowl. Then spam the shoot, and if dunk's still above the bowl, maybe you land on it, you will dunk it and not be sitting there in the fire the whole time. This method is great for future encounters to have the movement while dunking. Lastly, during damage, kill the goblins. Kill the goblins. If you're on Titan, I usually just popped hammers after damage and killed everything, but nothing is more annoying than those goblins during and after damage phase. So try to take them out by tagging them with your damage over time weapon or spending some DPS time into eliminating them. This fight is by far the most demoralizing, but once you get past this, you can master this dungeon. Wastelands. As you're dropping down, switch to your long-range weapon like the bow I mentioned before and your shotgun. I recommend Xenophage in case you get rushed back Captain, but this place is all about keeping your distance. Approach the first set of blights from an angle where the roaming minotaurs, the invisible ones, can't hit you. This might be from the side that's the edge of the map, or from a side where you kill the minotaur. I personally don't kill any of them because they're just bullet sponges, but if you find that safer, go ahead and whittle them down. Once at the blight location, snipe all the hobgoblins first, then work your way through the enemies that push towards you. Stay outside of the blights until everything is dead, then go in, shotgun or xenophage them. Talk to Tolan and repeat till done. I think the only threatening part here is really the Taken Knights that might rush you, and then the hobgoblins, which is always your #1 target. Or if you get caught with your pants down by one of the minotaurs, but everything else, this should be a breeze. The cube room. The cube room is surprisingly easy with my strategy. I've never wiped here, and as mentioned before, Risk Runner is really nice to have if you're having trouble with Acolyte or the Acolyte eyes. One mechanic I wish I included in my guide is that the hobgoblins and knights actually trade places. You kill a hobgoblin, a knight spawns. You kill a knight, a hobgoblin spawns. This is where your game sense and knowledge is going to help you. Every room you land in, you need to locate the hobgoblins instantly before deciding where to move. Once you see them spawn, immediately process where you can stand where they both can't see you. This usually involves just choosing one of them and going directly underneath them. Next, you want to kill a 2 group of acolytes that spawn, hitting them with a grenade launcher or your primary heavy. Once the wave is done, you can breathe. As long as you can't be shot by the hobgoblins, you decide how fast you want this to go. Locate Tolan and see the colored mote you need, and then kill a hobgoblin to spawn a knight. From here, you can kill the second hobgoblin to spawn the other knight, or you can just focus on one knight at a time. A lot of people tell me they have a lot of trouble getting the motes and then dunking them by the time the hobgoblins respawn and start sniping them. What I recommend is 2 strategies. Well, if you're a hunter, you could just go invis before you pick up the last mote and just be invis the whole time. But elsewise, try to either get both knights low, kill them at the same time and then instantly pick up the mote and dunk it, or kill the knights, then pick up 4 motes, give it back to cover, kill the hobgoblins again to spawn the knights while you go pick up your 5th mote and then dunk it before the knights can even charge their fire. Just know that this room moves as fast as you want it to. The only catch is if you go too slow, you could have another wave spawn. Just fall back, clear it out, all the acolytes, before continuing. Major tip here is that you can run through the center after dunking your mote to be teleported while moving. If you dunk your mote and are too weak though, just go back to cover, the hobgoblins will despawn. Otherwise, quickly tap the center plate and run along the edge, and you won't get pulled up, but you can still teleport to the next room. So again, major tip, land in room, look at hobgoblins, maybe get a glimpse of Tolan, but if you're panicking, just choose a hobgoblin and go underneath him. Try to go for the one with more horizontal cover, but the hobgoblins are your real threat here. Lastly, the boss phase is pretty easy with the 2 centurions. Take it slow with 1 boss at a time. When the wave spawns, kill them. It's like just some thrall. Then go back to DPSing and kill the taken grapes when they come at you, and it'll be fine. The Singularity, Rainbow Road, Ribbon Road, Sparrow encounter. This is nice and easy. You can play it safe or trust your SRL skills. Take the ribbon you're comfortable with. I recommend the far left one as it'll bring you outside the diamond rooms. Either never let go of the boost or take it slow and snipe every little vandal out there. Your call. Make sure to be on your subclass I mentioned before in case you fall. A sword might also help if you know how to sword back to safety. Some areas I do recommend hopping off your Sparrow though to take out vandals. If you're not confident with the twisty section of the ribbons, hop off and take the platforming. That's totally fine. Just know that when you're on the platforming, the big circle platforms will always spawn a taken Phalanx. This part again is determine how fast you want to go. So either speed through it or take your time. Just make sure to understand that you can ditch your Sparrow mid-air and have some jump left over. Boss room. It's boss time, ladies. You're probably shaking by now, nervous, sweating. But this part is like a ballerina performance. Remember, the first moat you dunk is always going to be the hardest because the room will then get easier. So if you have to super titans, do it when starting another room. Otherwise, I recommend spamming the spawn points at the very beginning. Anarchy or Wither Horde the spots, then go back to the beginning and knock out the Scion group that spawns by themselves. Kill the remaining Scions before proceeding with anything. Like the Phalanx encounter, you can actually stagger these knights too to be ultra safe. For example, if you kill these 2 knights now, they will respawn while you are trying to dunk. But if you kill them both, then kill another after they respawn, then when you go to dunk, you will only have 1 knight alive whenever you're going to dunk, which is super safe. As well, you will have to deal with the ogre when it spawns. So try this strategy out. Kill the knights, then let the next wave spawn, then just kill one of them, then finish off your moat, pick the moats up, do the drive-by dunk, so you're not sitting in the fire, and then layer the ogre spawn with the Wither Horde or Anarchy. Anarchy users just hit 1 Anarchy on the spawn and then 1 on him when he spawns in. If you're not using those, try to get some distance and avoid the 1 knight that you left behind, and then snipe the ogre as he is your #1 priority here. Remember hunters, go invis right before picking up your 5th moat, dunk while invis. If you don't know already, you should be meleeing with the moat while jumping, unless you're invis, that will break the invis. Just press jump then melee, jump melee, over and over again to get that free boost. Another tip, the boss in each corner shoots in bursts. Wait for a burst to come out, then dunk and the downtime. But don't be too hesitant as the boss hurts much less than a knight. So that is the rooms. Land in a room, spam the spawns if you can, go invis or proactive hour or pop super if you're on Titan, and clear out the Scions. Kill the knights, or either stagger them or not, your choice. Get the moats, drive by dunk when safe, spam the ogre. This here is nice to have constant movement, but make sure you have good game sense so that once you finish a side, you know that side becomes your safe haven as the boss is no longer there. Another tip, just like before, is you can run through the center to get teleported to the boss phase, but it's probably easier just to stay there since after you dunk your last moat, the ogre will spawn, but you can leave before he even lands. Alright, damage phases. Here you need to be very careful. Rule number 1, and I cannot stress this enough, dodge the first teleport, always. If you get double teleported here, like this, you die. So pay attention, dodge that one, and try to jump to the right here. This will allow good DPS with your weapons, and then when the hobgoblins spawn, you can instantly take them out. Use your grenade on one of them if you have taken armaments to get some ammo. Otherwise, once the boss moves, wait, kill the hobgoblins, then push up to the opposite side of the boss. DPS, boss is going to teleport, kill hobgoblins, push to the opposite side of the boss. Repeat, and then take the hobgoblins out the end once you get there. And then once he's in his final place, go to this spot for free DPS. Just don't grenade launch yourself. Please. Please don't do that. Once he is gone, you have some free time to let your super or abilities recharge. Once you think you're ready, just hop back down and get back to what I mentioned with each room. Don't get cocky and try to push for DPS. Hobgoblins always need to die. Hopefully at this point you have oppressive darkness debuffs on him or using some sunspot buffs on your Titan to pump up some extra damage, but try to aim for 3 to 4 phases as you don't want to get crazy out of ammo. If you need to save ammo for a DPS phase, then don't waste it on the boss if you're still going to 3 to 4 phase him. The room is the hard part of this encounter. The boss is easy as long as you don't die to that dark entropy or the hobgoblins. So, did you do it? Did you get flawless? If you're going to jump in after watching this video, good luck. I believe everyone can get this done, especially those of you who did pit. That seemed much harder. Either way, I really appreciate you watching the video. If you have any questions, just leave a comment down below. Maybe you have some friends who could use this, so share the video. If you like this kind of content or actually a gamer, maybe subscribe and help me reach my goal of 1,000 subs. I greatly appreciate all the support and can't wait to see you guys with a sick emblem and triumph. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you gamers in the next one.